Now we are going to talk more about moving figures on a geometric plane. So the type of movement we're going to talk about in this video is called translation. So we're going to translate these figures along a vector, and after we do so, we're going to label this new image that we get. So a vector is an arrow. However, when you're talking about translation and vectors, even though there's a little arrowhead here, a vector does have a starting point and an end point. So this would be the starting point A, this would be the starting point B. And using math symbols, vector AB can be written this way. Since A is the starting point and B is the ending point, you write AB, and then you draw a little vector above it. So now we are going to translate figure A along vector AB, and we're going to do that by using patty paper. Here's how you do that. You take your patty paper, you place it over your figure and your vector. So you want to make sure that both your figure and your vector are under the patty paper. Now you get your pencil and you just try your best to trace both the figure and the vector, but you don't want to lift your patty paper until you're completely done tracing both. So let's begin. All right, so here we go. I'm going to put a little point at the start point A and put another point at my end point B. And I'm just going to try my best to draw a straight line. That's pretty good. All right. Now we do the exact same thing with our figure. So I'm going to try my best to trace it as perfectly as I can. That's pretty good. There we go. So now to the translating part. So you translate along a vector by pushing your image in the direction of the vector, in the direction of the arrow. So we are going to push it along. There it is. And you can see there's our new image. And you keep pushing until this starting point hits the end point B. All right. And if you look, right, the vector kept going. It's not like off to the side, like totally off. My vector is going in that same path. And now I look at my new figure and I want to draw that new figure on my paper. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. One way, since we're using patty paper and patty paper is pretty thin, if you draw over this triangle but with some force, you're going to leave a shadow, a mark on the white worksheet that you can then trace over. So we're just going to use some force. We're going to press down. I'm going to trace that figure. Don't be scared. I mean, use a good amount of force, but not so much that you actually tear the patty paper. So press down and trace. And then when you lift your patty paper, you're going to see a shadow or an indentation on your paper that you can use to draw. Now, I know you might not see it in the video, but when I look at my paper, I definitely can see where the sides of the triangle are. And I mean, this may not be perfect, but you just try your best to draw that triangle the best that you can. So here we have figure A, and I would label this translated image figure. I would call that image of A. So the original figure, figure A, and the new figure that we got after we did the translation, you called that image of A. Now, let's do the same thing again with our second figure, figure B. So we are going to translate figure B along this new vector. Now notice this new vector points to the left. So our translation is going to go to the left. Also notice that on figure B, we have a point D that also needs to be translated. So let's do that. Same thing, we take our patty paper. We make sure that the figure and the vector are totally under the patty paper. And we just try our best to trace. Now figure B is a little bit tricky here because it's got over here some curves. Those are sometimes tricky. Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty good. All right, and then I'm also going to trace that point D. Now we put a dot where our start point A is. Put a second dot where our end point B is. And we connect them and we just try to make that line as straight as possible. Oh, messed up a little bit there, but that's okay. All right, and so now we're going to do the translation. So we are going to push the patty paper along the path of the vector, going to the same direction until that start point and the end point meet. And now I take my pencil, I use some force, I'm going to press down, trace that image on my patty paper. Don't be scared, use a good amount of force. Okay, again, you may not see it on the video, but on my paper, I see where that indentation is. Oh, that wasn't pretty good, but close enough. And then don't forget there's a point D here, so there's also a point over here. Now, the original figure B, we call it image of B after we translate, and this point D, after we translate it, we call it D prime. So D with a little prime symbol. All right, now you guys are going to get your 2 worksheets for this part. Okay, and you're going to translate the figures. And you got some angles and segments here along the given vectors. And don't forget to answer the questions at the bottom of the worksheets. Good luck.